They looked like the perfect couple. A young woman chasing her dream, traveling across the country in a van, documenting every moment and smiling for the cameras. It looked like she was living a life that was finally falling into place. That woman was Gabby Petito, and beside her was the man she trusted the most, Brian Laundrie. Together, they were living a life that people envied, a road trip filled with love, adventure, and freedom. At least, that's what the internet saw. But behind the camera, things were different. Because somewhere along the journey, things went terribly wrong. Gabby never made it home, but Brian did. He returned alone, refused to speak, and then vanished without a trace. And days later, what investigators discovered would turn this perfect love story into one of the most disturbing true crime cases the internet has ever followed. This is the story of Gabby Petito. She wasn't always the girl people saw online, smiling in a van, traveling the country. Long before that, she was just a small town girl. Gabrielle Venora Petito was born on March 19, 1999 in Blue Point, New York. She grew up in a big blended family, surrounded by 6 younger siblings and half-siblings, a chaotic but loving environment that shaped her early life. Even as a teenager, Gabby had a creative side. In 2013, she appeared in a music video alongside her stepbrothers, raising awareness about gun violence after the Sandy Hook elementary school shooting. It was one of the first glimpses of her desire to express herself and connect with people. By 2017, she had graduated from Bayport Blue Point High School, and it was there she met someone who would later change the course of her life, Brian Laundrie. After high school, Gabby tried to figure things out like many young adults do. She moved to North Carolina, working long hours as a hostess and in a restaurant kitchen, building independence and slowly shaping her life. She even applied to college but never ended up going. Then, in 2019, everything shifted. Gabby and Brian started dating in March of that year, and not long after, she moved in with him and his family in Florida. The two worked regular jobs at a local grocery store. Gabby as a pharmacy technician, Brian in the grocery department. It was a normal life, routine, predictable, but that wouldn't last long. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, they both quit their jobs, and they made a decision that would later define their relationship. They left. In late 2019 and early 2020, the couple set out on a cross-country journey, traveling from New York to California. By mid-2020, their relationship had deepened. They got engaged and started planning something bigger, something permanent. In December of that year, Gabby bought a white Ford Transit van. Small, simple, but full of possibility. She worked long hours to afford it, balancing multiple jobs just to make sure her dream came true. Because for Gabby, this wasn't just a trip, it was a new life. She began documenting everything, posting on Instagram, filming for YouTube, and sharing pieces of her world online with strangers. She loved yoga, art, nature, and the idea of freedom. And slowly, that perfect life began to take shape on screen. But behind it, something else was growing. At first, the trip looked perfect, but on August 12, 2021, something happened that would later change how the entire world looked at Gabby and Brian. That afternoon, a 911 call came in from Moab, Utah. A witness reported seeing a couple fighting outside a store, the Moonflower Community Cooperative. According to the caller, a man had slapped a woman, chased her down the sidewalk, and then hit her again before the two drove off together in a van.
We're driving by and I'd like to report a domestic dispute. Florida with the white van, Florida license plate, white land. Gentleman,
where's it at?
5-6 years. They just drove off. They're going down Main Street. They made a right onto Main Street from Moonflower.
What were they doing?
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
That van belonged to Gabby and Brian. Another witness told police the argument looked aggressive, that Gabby had been hitting Brian's arm, while Brian appeared to be trying to leave, even attempting to take her phone. At one point, just before they drove off, Gabby climbed into the driver's seat, then moved aside so Brian could take over. And then she asked him one question: "Why do you have to be so mean?" Not long after, police spotted their van driving erratically near the entrance to Arches National Park and pulled them over. What they found was hard to ignore. Gabby was in the passenger seat, crying, shaken, unable to steady herself, and she was struggling to breathe. In body cam footage, she tried to explain what had happened. She blamed herself, saying she had OCD, that she was stressed out, and that she had quit her job and was trying to build a blog, and that Brian didn't believe she could succeed. She kept apologizing over and over again. But as officers looked closely, they noticed marks on her body, injuries on her face, on her arm, and when pressed, she admitted that Brian had grabbed her face and told her to shut up. Brian, on the other hand, told a different story. He said he was trying to calm her down, that she had hit him first, and that he had only pushed her away. Gabby, at one point, even admitted that she had hit Brian and begged them not to separate them. But according to the police report, she never stopped crying, not even once. In the end, neither of them pressed charges, but the police made a decision that would later be heavily criticized.
So there's two people that came to us and told us that they saw him hit you. There's two people saying that they saw him punch you. We're just independent witnesses by Moonflower.
Well, to be honest, I definitely hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him crazy.
You slapped him first? And then what, just on his face?
You get to tell me to shut up.
How many times did you slap him?
Just a couple.
And then what? And his reaction was to do what?
I went around until I slapped him.
He just grabbed you?
Yeah.
Did he hit you though? I mean, it's okay if you're saying you hit him, and then I understand if he hit you, but we want to know the truth if he actually hit you.
I
'Cause,
guess,
you know-
I guess, yeah, but I hit him first.
Where did he hit you? Don't worry, just be
He
honest.
like grabbed my face. It's like, I guess, he didn't like hit me in the face. Like he didn't like punch me in the face or anything.
Did he slap your face or what?
Well, like he like grabbed me like with his nail, and I guess that's why it looks. I definitely have a cut right here. 'Cause I can feel it.
Yeah.
Touch it, it burns.
They treated the situation as a mental health episode, not domestic violence. Instead of making an arrest, they separated the couple for the night. Brian was sent to a motel, Gabby was left alone in the van. The next day, they reunited and continued their journey. But that moment, captured on police body cameras witnessed by strangers, documented in real time, would later become one of the most disturbing pieces of evidence in the entire case. Because looking back, it wasn't just an argument, it was a warning, one that no one would ever fully understand until it was too late. Everything started to fall apart in August 2021. On August 17, Brian Laundrie flew from Salt Lake City back to Florida alone, leaving Gabby Petito behind in Utah. According to his family's attorney, the trip was to handle personal errands and close a storage unit. But Gabby stayed in Salt Lake City, where she checked into a hotel and remained for several days before checking out on August 24. When Brian returned on August 23, the couple continued their road trip. But something had shifted. Gabby's mother later said that the last time she spoke to her daughter was on August 25th. Gabby mentioned that they were heading toward Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks. That same day, Gabby posted what would become her final Instagram post, photos of herself in front of a butterfly mural in Ogden, Utah. Then came August 27. Witnesses later claimed seeing the couple at a restaurant in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Brian appeared aggressive, arguing with staff over money, while Gabby was seen returning to the restaurant in tears, apologizing for his behavior. Hours later, CCTV captured Gabby and Brian at a Whole Foods store in Jackson. They entered together at 2:14 p.m., left shortly after, and drove north toward Bridger Teton National Forest. After that, there were no confirmed sightings of her alive, but witnesses in the area would later report unusual activity near Spread Creek in the Bridger Teton National Forest. A white van matching theirs was seen parked with no one around. A man believed to be Brian was seen acting strangely in the same area days earlier. On August 29, many witnesses claimed picking up Brian Laundrie while he was hitchhiking. One said that he appeared calm but off, offering money for rides and acting too nervous about going close to the campsite area. Another said he was dropped near the entrance to Spread Creek and seemed desperate not to go further inside. Around the same time, Brian's parents later said he called home, and during that call, his tone had suddenly changed. He then told his father something chilling. "Gabby's gone," and mentioned needing a lawyer. On 30th August, another text was sent from Gabby's phone to her mother saying, "No service in Yosemite." Her family later said they did not believe Gabby sent it. Soon after, money was transferred from her account along with messages suggesting goodbye, activity investigators believe was used to create a false trail. On 1st September, Brian returned alone to Florida in Gabby's van. And in the days that followed, he went camping with his parents, while Gabby remained missing. At this point, no one knew exactly what had happened in the wilderness. But the story was already moving toward its final devastating truth. By September 2021, this wasn't just a missing person case anymore. It was turning into something much bigger. On September 11, after weeks with no contact from her daughter, Gabby Petito's mother officially filed a missing person report. By this point, Gabby had not been heard from since late August, and the silence had already raised serious concern. 4 days later, attention shifted sharply. Brian Laundrie was named a person of interest. Almost immediately, his parents hired a lawyer and followed his advice, refusing to speak publicly about the case or answer questions from investigators. From that moment on, Brian stopped cooperating entirely. Police soon began surveillance on the Laundrie family home in Northport, Florida. On September 13, they observed Brian leaving the house. 2 days later, the car returned, and police believed they had seen Brian himself re-enter his home. But the situation quickly became more confusing because on 17th September, his parents contacted police claiming that they hadn't seen him since September 13. At the same time, police realized a critical mistake. They had misidentified Brian's mother during surveillance, meaning their understanding of his movements was uncertain. By now, investigators were searching multiple angles at once. Search warrants were executed at the Laundrie home, and police seized several key items, including the van the couple had used, electronic devices, and a family vehicle, all pieces that could help reconstruct the final days of Gabby's life. Then the case took a devastating turn. On 19th September, human remains were discovered at Spread Creek in Wyoming, not far from where the van had last been seen. Days later, the remains were confirmed to be Gabby Petito. An autopsy revealed the full truth. Her death was ruled a homicide caused by blunt force injuries to her head and neck, along with manual strangulation. Investigators estimated she had died weeks before her body was found. At that point, the case has shifted again, from missing person to murder investigation, and their focus completely turned to Brian Laundrie. On 23rd September, an arrest warrant was issued for him, related to unauthorized use of Gabby's debit card in the days after her death. The FBI also connected DNA evidence from his home as the search expanded. As pressure increased, even his own family members began urging him to come forward. But Brian was gone. Then, on 20th October, investigators found human remains and belongings in a flooded area of the Mayakahatchee Creek Environmental Park. Dental records later confirmed they belonged to Brian Laundrie. His cause of death was a self-inflicted gunshot to the head. With that discovery, both names at the center of one of the most followed true crime cases in the world were finally accounted for. After Gabby's remains were found and Brian was confirmed dead, the case felt closed in a legal sense, but not emotionally. There was still no full explanation, but that changed on 21 January 2022. The FBI revealed a notebook found next to his remains, which contained an admission that he had killed Gabby. He also admitted that he was the one who sent messages from her phone to make it seem like she was still alive. With that discovery, authorities officially concluded that Brian was responsible for Gabby's death, and the investigation into her murder was closed. But the details did not end there. In June 2022, the Laundrie family's attorney released the full contents of the notebook entry. In his writing, Brian claimed that Gabby had been injured during an argument and had fallen into water. He wrote that he ended her life, believing it was merciful and what she would have wanted. He also described his decision to take his own life, writing that he couldn't live without her. But investigators were not convinced by this version of events. They said Brian's account did not mention the physical evidence found during the investigation. After everything that happened, the case didn't just end in shock. It turned into something much bigger than two people. The disappearance of Gabby and the later discovery of what happened to her spread across social media faster than almost any missing persons case before it. In the years that followed, the case continued in courtrooms rather than headlines. Civil lawsuits were filed, settlements were reached, and legal battles continued between the families and authorities involved, each side searching for accountability. But none of it could change what had already happened. Today, Gabby's name is not only remembered for the tragedy of her death, but also for the awareness her case brought to countless others still in the situation. And to the people who followed her story unfold online, it's a reminder that not everything shown online is the truth. Sometimes it's only what we're meant to see. She wasn't just a headline. She was a life stopped mid-sentence unfairly.